Hey guys, we're going to be continuing the addition and subtraction of fractions and decimals. So again, please make sure you write everything down, okay, in order to get credit. So number one, Callie's pencil box weighed 1/3 of a pound and her notebook weighed 4/5 of a pound. What is the total? So right here, that means we're going to be adding of the weight of the pencil box and the notebook. So we're going to be adding 1/3 plus 4/5. Now again, we must find common denominator. So remember, there's two ways of finding common denominator. We can do our skip counting. So here we have 2, 6, 3, 9, 4, 12, 5, 15. And then here we have 8, 10, 12, 15. So 15 is going to be our common denominator. All right, and now that we have common denominator, we can go ahead and add. 5 plus 12 is 17 out of 15. The denominator stays the same. You only add the numerators, okay? Now, this is an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator, okay? So, we're going to have to divide 17 divided by 15 to find the mixed number. So 15 goes into 17 one time, subtract, and we have 2 left over. So the number up here, that's going to be your whole number. So 1 is your whole number. The 2 is going to be your numerator, and then the denominator stays the same, 15. So your final answer is 1 2/15, which is letter C. Number 2, Drew ran 1.5 miles on Monday, 2 miles on Tuesday, and 2.75 miles on Wednesday. How far did Drew run on these 3 days? So again, we need to be adding, and we're going to be adding these 3 decimals. So when you add decimals, you must line up your decimal place value. So we're going to start with 2.75 plus 1.50, we're going to put a 50, plus the 2, you have to write 2.00, okay? And we're going to add. So 5, 12, carry the 1, bring down your decimal, and 6. So my answer is G, 6.25. Number 3, Mr. Brown bought 2 2/3 pounds of bananas and 3.5 pounds of peaches at the grocery store. How many pounds, or how many more? Okay, we talked about this. So it says how many more. That means subtraction, okay? And when you subtract, the greater number goes first. So if I'm going to be subtracting these, one of them is a fraction and the other one's a decimal. But you should be able to recognize that 0.5 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, you should know that. So instead of writing 3.5, I'm going to write 3.5 minus 2 2/3. And again, I do not have common denominator. So this time I'm going to be multiplying. So remember, when we look at our denominator, this is a 3, so I'm going to multiply this by 3. And this is a 2, so I'm going to multiply this one by 2. And we're going to get 3/6. Oh, let me move it over a little bit. And 4/6, okay? Now we have common denominator, so we subtract. But I have another little problem. I have 3 minus 4. Okay, I cannot take 4 away from 3 because 3 is smaller than 4, which means I'm going to have to borrow from the whole number. Okay, so I'm going to borrow from this whole number, and I'm going to take 1 away, which means I have 2 left over. And that 1 that I took from here, I'm going to put it in front of my fraction, this one right here. Okay, now I have 1 and 3/6. And I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. So in order to do that, I start with the bottom. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9 over 6, because the denominator stays the same. Okay? So now, instead of having this, I have this. And I can subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5, and the denominator stays the same, 5/6. And here I don't have a whole number anymore because 2 minus 2 is 0, so I have nothing. Okay, so my correct answer is B. Be very careful with this one. You had to borrow, so you need to remember how to do all of these steps. Very tricky. All right, number 4. Vicki wrote 2 checks, one for $12.37 and the other for $45.05. She had $125.08 in her checking account before writing the checks. What is Vicki's balance now? So we're actually going to have to do a couple of steps here. First, I want to know how much money did she spend. So I need to add the 2 check amounts. So this was the first check. So $12.37 plus $45.05. So remember, when you add decimals, you must line up your decimal place value. So we get 12, carry the 1, 4, bring down the decimal, 7, and 5. So she spent $57.42. Now this is not your answer because it says how much money is left now, or what is the balance, okay? So she started with $125.08. And we took away, or we took out of the bank, $57.42. That's how much she took off. So that means we're subtracting that. All right, so 8 minus 2 is 6. Here I'm going to borrow. It's 4, 10, 6 again. Bring down the decimal. Borrow one more time. 7 and 6. So the correct answer is F, $67.66. That's how much she has in the bank. All right, number 5. Susie kept a chart of how much time she spent playing tennis for 3 days. Her friend Lewis played tennis for a total of 7 hours during the same period. How much longer? Okay, so again, how much longer? I'm going to be subtracting. Did Lewis play than Susie? Well, first I have to find Susie's total. I don't know what the total is, so I need to add these 3 together, okay? Then, after I add these 3 together, I need to subtract from Lewis, and Lewis is 7. So, lots of steps. You're going to follow along carefully. First of all, I have 3 fractions, and they all have different denominators. So, I'm going to have to find a common denominator for all 3 of them, okay? Now, because I know that 2, 4, and 6, they all have a common denominator, I'm going to turn it to the back. And we're going to start doing multiples. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, okay? Then we're going to do 4, 8, 12, 16. And then we're going to do 6, 12, 18, 24. All right, so here are all the multiples of 2, 4, and 6, and I'm looking for the smallest one, so I'm going to do 12. okay? So 12 is my least common multiple, my least common factor, okay? All right, so going back over here, remember we wanted to get to 12. So I know that 2 times 6 is 12. So I'm gonna have 6 out of 12. I know that 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm gonna get 3 out of 12. And I know that 6 times 2 is 12. So I'm gonna get 10 out of 12, okay? So now I'm gonna be able to add them because I have all common denominator. So 1 and 6 twelfths plus 2 and 3 twelfths plus 1 and 10 twelfths. Okay, so we add everything together and we get 4 and 19 twelfths, okay? So remember, you only add your numerators. 10 plus 3 plus 6 is 19. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4, okay? Now, again, we have an improper fraction, improper. So we have to divide. 19 divided by 12 goes in one time. Subtract, you get 7. So this is now going to be 5 and 7 twelfths, okay? Now, where do I get the 5? Because 4 plus the 1 is 5, and we have 7 left over out of 12, okay? Now, we have to subtract from the 7 hours, because this is how much Lewis spent, okay? So we're going to do 7 minus 5 and 7 twelfths. Now, here's a problem. We do not have a fraction here, which means we have to borrow. I cannot take 7 twelfths away from nothing. So this is going to be a 6, and then instead of writing 1 whole, I'm going to write 12 out of 12 because this is equal to 1 whole, okay? And I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 7 is 5 out of 12, and then 6 minus 5 is 1. So the correct answer is C. Lots of steps, very tricky right here. Oops, I didn't know you could see it. Here you go, guys. All right, last problem, number 6. Lainey uses 3 4/9 bags of red beads and 2 1/6 bags of yellow beads for a craft at summer camp. How many bags of red and yellow beads does Lainey use for the craft? All right, so again, we're adding this time. 3 4/9 plus 2 1/6. Add, find common denominator. So this time I'm going to multiply. Oops, no, let's not multiply. Okay, let's find common denominator in the back. So 9, 18, 27, 6, 12, 18. There we go. 18 is our common denominator. So times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. We get 8 out of 18 and 3 out of 18. Now we can add 5 and 11/18. And we're done.